And when we talk about commercial excellence, no, one of the word which goes very synonymous to this is digital transformation.
Every format of whatever we are trying to do in terms of customer engagement, marketing strategy is a lot of track and trail data which is getting generated with the AI and the Gen AI capabilities which are getting increasingly active. You don't have a choice but to leverage that.
So, hello friends, welcome to today's episode of Gregor's podcast series. We have called it as Decoded by Dr. Rajeshri. So, obviously, I'm Dr. Rajeshri, and it's my very sincere attempt to actually engage with the stalwarts of the pharma industry. Stalwarts of the pharma industry who have been at the helm of these affairs in saying that who had actually seen how commercial excellence has really transformed this entire industry, because that's going to be the future of how the businesses are going to. Uh, Earlier on, if we really talk about the pharma industry, the competitive advantage used to be in product innovation. Later on, it shifted over to something what we used to call as cost leadership. But the evolving macroeconomic environment actually gave a lot of avenues to the healthcare industry. And many of the successful pharma companies have actually taken advantage of this for the avenues of differentiation. Then it could be expanding geographical boundaries, or it could be taking advantage or leveraging on the emerging channels of distribution. It was also something which companies have done very successfully is driving customer engagements. And now with COVID and everything, you have marketing tools and sales force effectiveness tools which are coming up. But while we say all this, in this latest era, if we talk about it, every company has an access to all these levers. So what is going to be the next lever which is going to give that sustainable competitive advantage? And I believe the next generation lever for long-term success is going to be the superior commercial execution. And especially in this era where digital transformation is there, AI, ML is at the forefront, what is going to give that sustainable advantage is going to be coaching sales. And who else can really talk about it? And today's guest is actually the person who has seen this entire journey of how commercial excellence can be a differentiator. And especially, I'm emphasizing on the word sustainable competitive advantage. And he is none other than my dear friend, but moreover, a doyen in this field, which is Mr. Vivek Hanvelkar. So, Vivek Hanvelkar, if I have to really go by in saying, what is his designation? You vice president of one of the largest companies, not only in India, worldwide. So, who leads possibly all possible functions. So, I was just going through his LinkedIn profile, and he looks into Salesforce effectiveness, he looks into market research, he looks into digital marketing, he looks into direct marketing. And I was wondering, is there something left over in this particular era? And that's Vivek for me. But more so, if I have to really talk about Vivek, I genuinely feel he's the person who embodies that digital transformation in action. And that's for me what Vivek is. And today, if I have to say that commercial excellence, though the name says it all and gives a very glamour feel, but in the industry, it still remains as a support function. But someone who has purely by his efforts brought this support function into a line function, I would really give him that. And that's where, Vivek, you had to be the first person on this podcast series, and I couldn't have thought of anyone else besides you. So that's when he is. And if I have to, I went through his LinkedIn profile. I did go through his resume. And to be honest, none of the things could do justice to the amount of work. So I'm candidly telling you on the face that resume also doesn't give justice to the work, because I have been a witness for his entire journey over here. He's the one I feel in this era, as I mentioned about AI and ML, is a very passionate believer of data, insights, technology. and more so again having a human insight angle. So how do you marry both the things? And that's where I would really like to dive deep into your this journey. And through this podcast, I would really see that all our audiences who are going to see this podcast is really going to enjoy this journey. So I'm very excited to have you over here. And I'm sure even the audience after seeing the podcast will be as excited as I am going to be as when I look into and unfold your journey. So as usual, I'll take a pause. It's going to be, I'm here to listen to Vivek. So my biggest challenge is going to be going further. I'm going to be the listener who's going to be really just probing those questions in front of you. And over to you, Vivek, then I'm all yours to you, all yours. And I'm genuinely very interested in knowing your journey with it. So today's objective, Vivek, why we start off this podcast, is actually go to the basics of what is this commercial excellence all about, and what is the experience which you had in the show. And when we talk about commercial excellence, no, one of the word which was very synonymous to this is digital transformation. But honestly, whenever we have been discussing, when we really understand digital transformation, we would like to hear from you. And the promise it is actually show. A lot of promises there around the digital transformation. How have you been able to deliver on that promise at Sun or any of the other companies is what I would really like to hear from you. So, all yours.
Firstly, thank you so much, Richard, for that overwhelmingly, sugar-coated introduction that you gave for me. But I hope the intent with which we are starting this initiative, it actually meets and gets that kind of a desirable response. And I'll also try and be as honest and frank about my first-hand experiential journey being a part of this function. So let me make an attempt to answer to your first question. I think you asked me to compose what is commercial excellence and what do you see digital transformation playing a pivotal role in driving commercial excellence. There's something honestly, and I'm not sure whether I have discussed, and you and me, we have known each other for decades, but I will think we have had an opportunity to discuss my own basic, very, very rooted philosophy around commercial excellence as a function. In first place, why did it come into existence? I mean, I started my journey as a brand manager way back in '98 with a small size Intel company. It was having only one division with 15-20 products in the market. And we did have all these fanciful functions to support that one division. So today we see so many enabling functions which are operating in different organizational setups and now have become definitely much critically larger than life. But when I look back at that first-hand experience when I started my journey as a product manager, where we definitely didn't have any concept like a commercial excellence or an SFE. Those were the days where the daily activity reports was a physical hard copy DFR. But then when I'm looking at that experience of mine and over the years, I strongly believe this function has come into existence to basically allow the leadership to recognize what are those key operational, you can say philosophical or strategic levers which has made a company successful on ground. So many cases when you speak to the today's sales leaders who have been in the system for 15-20 years in the sales company setup, and very often you keep hearing them कि मेरे ज़माने में इतना doctors, this is the time that I was interacting with the doctor, this much time I was spending in clinic. So there is some ethos and a philosophy and an operational, I would say, strategy which makes and breaks every company. So whichever companies which have gone on to become bigger, there are some deep-rooted, fundamental philosophies which they have adopted in market and that have made them successful. But gone are the days that the companies and the most leading companies operating with one division. I can bet most of the top 15, 20, or even you go down to the 25th company, will at least have 8 or 10 divisions. Yeah. Now, how do you ensure that what has worked in terms of principle philosophy, the operating standards, the strategies, which are also operational in its nature in the field. It's not about only strategizing from marketing perspective, but there's also a sales strategy in place. So my philosophy is the commercial excellence function has evolved over years to understand what is that sales operational strategy and philosophy. And then as you divisionalize, you can't have every person who's been in that philosophy to understand as the company expands. So from 100 team members working in the sales function, if today there are thousands of people working, how the other 1,000 who have come on to board newly immediately get basically imbibed to that sales operation strategy. So somewhere, I think this function plays a very pivotal role in identifying which are those best practices, what have made the company work, and then at a centralized level, you can't expect the next generation to have the same philosophy and ethos to work, commitment level to work with the company. So how can we, basically operationalize that ethos of a company and make it applicable at mass to much larger audience is a very fundamental belief with which I have basically looking at a commercialization function. So I think
But in case of just taking the clue from what you mentioned, like, when we talk about digital transformation, we are talking about commercial excellence. One of the things is that, if you have a SFA platform, that means that is a digital transformation. Or if you have a technology platform which is being used, that means you are digitally empowered. Is that exactly what you also mean when you say no, gentlemen? I think vision and what is how the vision is talking?
so taking up, step up from where I said, that's where the thoughts, has kind of being a fundamental baseline scope of deliverable for a commercial excellence function. That's where today when we see a SFA platform, that's a component to a digital transformation. So if I am having an operating standards key, I have to make like dinke 12 calls and I'm supposed to have X count of doctors to be covered. So there's a strategy by which the company has worked out a sales operations, I would say work span that gets translated into a digitized format, and the SFA application allow you to do that. But I wouldn't want to, I would say qualify the digital transformation in today's context, which is limited to only the SFA automation. I think that's a very small component of the commercial excellence in a larger scheme of things. There's one simple lens that I've always been principally at a personal level practicing, as I have been trying to leverage digital transformation for whichever companies that I've worked for. And for me, digital transformation probably has to be looked upon from 3 different lenses. Okay, because digital is common. So we have to bring in leverage digital technology to transform. But then I think the 3 lenses that I always keep, remembering and kind of re-emphasizing on my own thought process. First, how do you use so-called this digital transformation where we are trying to simplify, wherever we can use digital transformation to improve the productivity by virtue of either optimizing some of the processes which are very manual centric, taking a lot of time. So use digitization to improve on the process deliverables, or you are trying to basically use digital, build digital platforms where it allows you for the team which is otherwise spending time to do it manually. A digital platform is able to do that job for you much usually. So wherever there is a time essence that can be saved, you need to bring in a tech element. It is, or if it is something to do with skill enhancement of people, you still try and improve the capability of the team members by leveraging some digital and technical tools. So when we talk of today's world, so many training programs are conducted on a virtual level. As another digital tool that I'm bringing into play, but it is helping me to give a larger impact. But it is a part of the digital transformation lens. So how do I leverage digitization to either give an impact on the processes or cut down the overall, I would say, operational time is one mix.
Great. I think you answered my second question. I was just going to ask you which are the digital initiatives.
But there are 3 things, Rajesh. So I'm saying like one is digital transformation lever to look at the process optimization. The second lens with which I look at digital transformation is to deal with data. Because as you're digitizing the processes, it gives you a lot of track and trail and data. Now, That has to be used to build the organizational capability to also build a data layer, build analytical layer, generate insights, and again further empower your whether it is sales or the head office team to take I would say better decisions. So how do we use the digital transformation to generate adequate data, and we deploy that data or process that data to generate insights which can impact I would say your performance. So that's a second lens of data analytics layer of digital transformation. And the third, in my own opinion, is equally important is marketing. When I say marketing, digital marketing. So you can actually bring in a lot of digital tools which are digital transformation, but you can actually reach out to your end customers in a much more effective way. So today, in today's world, especially something which is very closely resonating the commercial excellence function, we speak about multi-channel marketing, omni-channel marketing, but it is end game a marketing concept, but I'm using digital technology to be able to reach out to my end HCPs. So all I'm trying to say is like process optimization, data analytics, and digital marketing should be the three lenses that one should look at. And then you'd have a lot of ideas to leverage digital transformation.
Great, great. We deal with a lot of companies as a part of our company as well in the analytical solution space. One of the things which we have always seen, uh, earlier on, we used to be all talking about getting the right data. That used to be the problem statement, which used to be very easy. Now, I have seen that the data sources and the data points have just exploded. And now it has become like, how do I make the optimal use of data? So, between this journey of getting the right data to the optimal use of data, I generally see companies are at different maturity levels. And because the data layers have purely generated in silos, marrying these data points has suddenly become a core function of commercial excellence. So their role is that a Bangalore and a Bangalore name in two different things have to be connected together. And then we say, Acha, what do you really do? And most of the companies say, oh, that is the time they spend most of the times in marrying the data points. So where do you really see it? So are these practical realities, or how have you really done it in Sun? Because you're dealing with so many, I think, how many divisions? 25, 40? What is the latest count?
40 plus.
40 plus. So 40 plus divisions, and where you have these many silos of data, where you have so many data points to be connected. So what has been that digital initiative where you have been able to really get it everything together and really solve this problem?
Okay, let me give an honest reflection. This is a problem that none of the companies are able to solve to the perfection. So it's a journey. Okay, when it comes to we speaking about data integration, data validation, data cleanup, it's a journey. And I've always been treating, despite me being at the helm of this kind of a project work for more than at least maybe 20 years, working with at least 3-4 different large size companies. And this has been a basic problem statement which has existed in all the companies. Of course, at a different degree of maturity levels. So I'm very taking a very, I would say, conscious position over here to call it as a journey. Meaning, clearly when I have been dealing with data integration challenges or data quality problems, my simple submission has always been to process and leverage what is already available in terms of reasonable good quality. Integration is a later point. So when we start talking about making some sense of the data, it is but obvious that you're not dealing with data in isolation. You'll have data from say CRM system, have data from sales performance system, you might have data from say a digital marketing engagement system. If you start thinking that I leverage all the data only after it has got integrated well enough, and then trying to feed back with some insightful analytics or action insights to the stakeholder, I think that's a very wrong philosophy. I've always believed, and in the last 20 years of my experience, I've leveraged small pieces of data and I've done what best at that point in time, which was feasible and possible with that data point, going back to the end stakeholders. For example, if I am looking at trying to improve the quality of the data and customer master data specifically,
Sure.
the email IDs and mobile numbers is a golden problem. It's of the whole industry.
I can relate with it.
Which every year that we are trying to clean that up and we still end up finding. Deduplication is a second step. So one of the elements that can be solved by using a proper email ID, mobile number data. But the point is, who can get us this data? It is going to be the sales team. You don't have, at least India is not matured enough as a country to level where you can source this data at a click level from a third party. You're ending up being dependent on the sales team. Now, if I'm not, I mean, the sales team thinks that someone is just forcing me, head office से command आ गया कि मुझे data अच्छी तरह से clean करके दो. You log into the system and put up the latest updated email ID and mobile numbers. They will never, I mean, till the time they believe that this is the data which is being sought after for someone else's use, they will never put the skin in the game. If I start then releasing some kind of analytic where all the customer masters or lists which the rep is trying to basically consume, and giving him the email ID and the mobile number, and also giving him some tools where he can use these data points to connect back to the customer, he thinks that this is going to be, end of the day, very useful for me. This data, if I share with my back office team, they will essentially do something for me using this data to further improve my performance. He starts putting, I mean, he's then motivated to put the spin in the game. So till the time then I'm not waiting for all the data to get triangulated together. We will start small. जो भी छोटा data है, you start doing the best what you can do. Take it to the stakeholder. Let them test the potential, art of possible and success. They will also then partner with you to bridge that gap. If you're thinking it's only a push strategy, it's not going to work. It needs to have a very, very balanced push and pull element. At a point in time, you will actually definitely reach a better maturity level. Coming to thinking of the integration, let's accept the fact that not every organization will have, in first place, on the data getting monitored and digitized. There are many activities and many things which keep getting executed in companies which are unstructured or unorganized. I mean, where some transactions, conversations are happening over an email, over a WhatsApp channel, or a phone call. Now, these are also critical components of data which are lying in silos. So when we are trying to talk of building the integration journey, I think on one hand, we need to clearly segment which are the data points which are available with you in a reasonably good quality, which are available in a structured format. You start triangulating them together and give it back to the stakeholders while clearly recognizing and identifying which are those data points which you believe are must-haves. But today you don't have a digital system to get it structured. Why don't you start building on the digital platforms which will allow you to structure and capture the data? So it's a journey. So at one hand, what you have, try and do the best of it, parallelly integrate and then do some projects work around that and start building systems to capture additional structured data. So
That you made a very valid point, because the thing is that we do a lot of deduplication projects, and when we do a lot of deduplication projects, as what you rightly put it up, we see the compliance levels when it comes up to email IDs or when it comes up to the phone numbers. You most of the time see the medical reps numbers only being written in the phone number column. Then you would see email IDs which are just made up. I could normally give a very classical case of my name itself. So if I really say Rajeshri, the Rajeshri can be spelled in 10 different types, and if it is from 10 different states, then Rajeshri can become Rajeshwari to Rajeshri to Rajarshri, everything. And none of the external can really solve this problem. So you really require to have this technique. But you made the valid point in saying whatever is that, first give that back to the stakeholders who's going to provide the data.
Correct.
Unless and until I make his life easy by we are asking for a data, it will not work. And I think that is a fabulous point, because any amount of push what you actually put in up will not take it over there. So great. As we are moving further, I'm also enjoying this discussion, because the point is that what you're saying, we normally in a day-to-day life face the same sort of question answers when we come over and doing analytical solutions. Very interestingly, and I'm just trying to move a little bit or a different, I would take a different line of our questioning. On one hand, you lead the Salesforce effectiveness workshop. And that's why when I introduced you also, I saw that you lead SFE, you lead market research, you lead digital and direct marketing. So you have on one side where you are leading a digital function, where you are side tracking all the intermediaries of salespeople within that particular channel and going to the market. And you're also leading a Salesforce effectiveness function where you have thousands of Salesforce and you have to get the work done. Now, how do you really manage and strike a balance between the two, where you have a human element and get the digitalization and the commercial exchange work that from it, and at the same time you have a different channel where you don't require that. So, how do you really manage this commercial exchange?
No, interesting question, Nalishi. And I think the answer is simple. Both these verticals are dealing with a different business. I would say I'm not calling it as a problem statement or different business objectives. So when we are trying to leverage the existing sales team with a direct face-to-face human and a personal interaction relationship building model with customers, so there is a set of product portfolio which allows us to build the business with that operating model. But it's a hardcore reality that in the times to come, you can't avoid but to leverage the direct, I would say, customer channel and engagement channel. When I say direct, it could be a digital format. And there are a couple of reasons why I say so. One, and a very basic fundamental reason, all the statistics, there are different numbers. How many doctors are currently practicing in India by a sheer count or practicing allopathic medicine? You have a speculative number anywhere between 5 6 lakhs to 8 lakhs. How many Indian pharma companies have a capability to reach and cover all the 100% doctors? I mean, the best of the companies will not be able to cover more than 50-60% of the actual available universe. Now, that's a stretched level. Now, within that, every company has multiple divisions. Each division will have a set of fixed customers that they're covering a fixed product portfolio to manage. So, as a company, you might be reaching out to a X level of customers, but not every brand in respective division is being communicated to the respective HCPs that your company is already well versed. So you don't have much. I mean, I believe this is going to be a strategic imperative for organizations to leverage a direct to customer engagement channel, wherein you're not conflicting with what the work the rep is doing. Rep is able to take the product to probably say X count of doctors, but I have a database of another Y count of doctors. If I can build a relationship through a direct channel and introduce my products to them through that channel, and in the today's digital era, that is clearly a welcoming experience that we have had for a lot of projects that we have done, where the doctors are able to respond to the digital channel as well. Why not then? So, I mean, so both the channels today, in my own judgment and opinion, are solely for different business, I would say, opportunities. And since they're not conflicting, I mean, even both that's not coming in the way. I mean, the report can, the face-to-face channel need not be feeling threatened about it. Sage, Indian market, Indian sales, I would say, operating model, rep is going to be the center of the whole marketing program. Personal relationship based selling is good. The fundamental, I would say, premise with which the Indian pharma industry will thrive. And it's just not today, tomorrow, but years to come. This is irreplaceable.
Yeah, and I think COVID was a live example where everyone used to be talking about that now, whatever the reach and frequency model that we talk about in the pharma industry will not exist. But past COVID and everyone have realized the importance of the relationship marketing and where the people are here to stay. So in your journey till now, what are those digital initiatives, or where have you really used this technology platform where you could really increase the so-called sales course effectiveness of the people? Because that is something. So what are some of the digital initiatives, if you can share with us?
All I can call out is some broad themes under which the work has happened. I wouldn't want to pinpoint and call out some specific initiatives which in the organization that I work for. But clearly, one of the fundamental, I would say, exciting work that I have been associated and I take a lot of pride in that is dashboarding and analytics. Meaning today, you have a lot of structured head office, support team members helping the brand managers and the marketing folks with a lot of insightful data analytics at a custom level. Accessible to them at the click of a button, or instantaneously someone will just give a call to the market research department. Within 24 hours, you have a report and data analytics. We kind of seldom have given that intense level of importance and focus on the sales scenario. Any large setup organization, I would say, against 100 marketeer team members, should at least have 8 to 10,000 field colleagues. Now, I have always looked at the dashboarding analytics and its ability to influence the larger sales force much higher in terms of its potential to unlock the performance potential than we helping data analytics only for head office team. So it's many companies that have been associated, but by surely creating a very interesting, insightful dashboard data analytics accessible at an equal to one level, right to the sales rep level, brings in a lot of transparency and accountability. And it's again an interesting journey. For people who have been working on dashboard analytics, for them just trying to convert the backend structured data into on chart, people get excited. Right? I have always looked at it. I'm not saying differently. Of course, that's an exciting angle to that. But there, I think, let's imagine a typical sales function, and it's a hardcore reality that the sales team don't come with the best of the analytical acumen and capability. So you'll have at least 20-30% of the lot who are good at analytics, and they are independently doing whatever analytics that they wish to do on numbers to draw strategies. Then you have 20-30% another lot who are average, but then if they're getting some I would say structured data, they'll at least do the job. But then there is a down below lot who is much below average in terms of their analytical acumen and capability. You just need to go behind them, and it's like a nudging. Keep on telling them that, boss, you're underachieving, you're not selling these brands, you're not covering these customers. Kind of a daily reminder or a report card reflection that they keep having on their performance has an ability to change their behavioral pattern, because they're not good at data to extract data from 5 different systems like what point of view. So for me, dashboard is like, it's a very, very transparent mirror, accessible to the end user, and as dynamic and real time it can be, the higher empowerment the field will be able to leverage. That's number one. Number two, equally relevant and exciting, it takes out the noise. And classical situation, monthly sales review, which happens between the entire sales hierarchy after the month has ended. In my own personal experience, before we started, at least the first journey that we started creating a dashboard, I had an opportunity to review all the multiple review formats which exists across the sales teams, more than 25-30 divisions that we were having. While there is a common angle to the numbers or data analytics that they do in the review formats, yet there is a different point of view with which. So people were spending hours and days to simply comply with that review format. So it's a waste of their time. Plus, the irony is the time and the source with which they access the data. A first-line manager will make an aggregated report basis what report he is having an access. A representative will do from something else. तो दोनों जब साथ में रिव्यू में बैठते हैं, half an hour gets wasted in reconciling the data कि किसका data सही है, manager. So it's just too much noise. They take a lot of efforts to make the reports. Plus, if there's a data dissonance, you're wasting time. Dashboard just reduces all that, and everyone has access to the same data, single source of truth. Right or wrong, but everyone is looking at the same data point. And above, one of the most powerful, I would say, capability of a dashboard, and that's where I always believe we being a part of the commercial excellence team who can design and create this dashboard. It is clearly a simple mechanism for you to send out a loud and clear message right till the rep level. What is your priority? For example, if you have a dashboard which just represents the outline KPI, on a conventional level, people track KPI, target achievement, growth, key brand performance, and something.
Whatever leads to his incentive.
Whatever is monitored, it gets done. I just introduce a new KPI which is shaded different. And that KPI is visible right till the lowest level of the hierarchy. You have a power to change how people behave. I'll give you a few examples. Something which is pretty exciting and interesting. Although discussed very often, but then we keep talking about visit frequency and visit frequency. Coverage of the doctors is a basic coverage and visit frequency coverage. Most often in the reviews and dashboard, people keep tracking the coverage which is missed doctors. While we have the capability to track the missed doctors as per visit frequency, not everyone is important. You just bring in that angle and have seen the emphasis and change. You just start monitoring that KPI. We included that KPI as a part of the head office review. We built it in the dashboard for the sales hierarchy, and within 4 to 6 months, you see a transformation and a phenomenal change. Just because you have added that KPI, people come to know that this is important. Likewise, if you are having a fixed set of customers that you're covering, you categorize the customers as ABC. There are various ways and means by which you can monitor and capture the engagement data around the customers. You bring in that KPI, loud and clear message goes right till the bottom level that head office में ये monitor होता है, तो obviously I'll have to put in an effort to change my, so it has a capability to strategically communicate which are your priorities and bring that behavioral change in the field. So we should always look at dashboard as a behavioral and a very strategic tool, not just some creative animation and whatever graphs and tables.
And I'm very tempted to share my experience over here and saying that there is so much of a difference of opinion between even divisions to say that what are the KPIs. So how did you really manage this in a company of Sun with 40 divisions and coming up to a standardized dashboard and a conversions around it? Here, so there is always even a fight between that one wants to see the data in the rows, the other division head wants to see it as columns. So to that extent, when we see a dissonance, how did you really bring this convergence in this entire chaotic part of it and able to really implement it?
No, interesting question. I think, when we reviewed and studied the existing lever formats, all I can say, we picked up the data pieces which were most common.
Okay.
We applied our own diligence of what we felt is the most better and articulate way of analyzing that data. So obviously, you'll have some hits and some misses. And while we would want to be as democratic as possible to accommodate all the views and opinion, just today morning I was having a conversation with one of my team members, and I was trying to explain to him what should be our philosophy when we are a part of enabling function, when we are kind of dealing with such situations where you have multiple stakeholders with different set of opinions, but still you are supposed to basically consolidate and drive. So I was giving you an example that remember that we are owning up the vehicle. In this case, if it's the dashboard, that's my vehicle. I am in the driver's seat. So I am actually taking a decision of what to get added and which. And I'm very clear that I'm driving in my truck from Mumbai to say Delhi. So these objectives are very clear. You'll have a lot of people to add value. Someone will suggest a better ways and means to improve the economy of scale and suggest some shortcuts which can get me to Delhi faster. I will accommodate. If someone is trying to drift and take me to Kolkata instead of Delhi, we'll have to politely take a call saying then sorry, but we will not be able to do. But at every given, but we have to still give them a pleasurable experience. So everyone who wants to ride onto that truck and be a part of that journey, we'll have to take them now. So some of the critique opinions we will have to listen, but we'll have to be very empathetic to only acknowledge for that time being and sacrifice them. You just can't be good to everyone. You will have to draw that line. And as long as you're putting the skin in the game, why would other stakeholder, I would say, listen to you? It's because you also are trying to put your neck out and having an opinion which is grounds up based on your understanding of their problem statement.
Yeah.
If you're only that's another problem with many of the commercial excellence colleagues, and I don't want to pinpoint a specific name or companies, but then if you think you're only an executionist, you're only a function which is you also have an opinion, and you have to be authoritative. You have to believe that you are the custodian of that function, and you have to have that courage to voice your opinion. 9 out of 10 occasions, maybe you will not be heard. But at one occasion that you will get heard, you stay motivated. Don't expect that every point in time you have an opportunity to voice your opinion, people will respond. Ye function, I wouldn't call it a thankless function, but you are a part of enabling function. The hero of any organization will be sales and marketing. You are a part of enabling function. engrave that in our school of thought. People should remember you for some good value addition that you've given them for ages. They may not acknowledge it upfront, but you should be happy with it because you know that people will make ये जो चीज हुई है company में thanks to so and so team or the function of there.
I think I want even a philosophical way because I require acknowledgement at every level. So if I have to be on the client side, that is something which I have to be prepared for. But I understand. I completely understand because that is something which is a pain point for me. Even when I introduced in the beginning, for me, the biggest pain has always been that why should a commercial excellence team be a support function? It really pains me in saying that when everything in the era of digital transformation, in the era of data, in the era of technology, and where we know that the future is going to be data is going to drive the decisions, then how come this function remain as a support function? I think it should be a part of the C-suite. It is the high time that where you have the chief human resources officer, you have the chief CEO, CFOs. I have heard about chief data officer also, chief information, CTO has come. I think it's high time with people with you in the name, we should have a chief analytics officer also. So that should be the dream that we should come up with. But very interesting discussion. While we are moving on, I think I have a lot of questions around it and I can keep on going over. But let me come towards somewhat in the last phase of it, a couple of months, which I feel is very important. Since you have seen this journey, moving from what this function used to be called, like, it is MIS. It used to be called as MIS function. Then it became a sort of a data provider function. Now it is called in some organizations, it is called as a SFE function. So there is no term as commercial excellence at all. So it has become SFE function. Then it has got added up with the L&D, so learning and development. Those functions have come up into the place. And then there are this granular sort of a thing attached to commercial excellence. But still, I still see this maturity education talk up. So, where do you see this commercial excellence as a function getting its due credit? And do you really see it in the near future? Is 3 to 5 years a good time period where we see that a commercial excellence and a chief analytics officer is there in each of the company? Do you really see that? Or you have to ambitious?
I think it is a must-have and therefore decision for any evolving or a recognized company. Not because I'm a part of that journey for all these years, but it is inevitable in the sense data is going to be, I would say, the whole, whatever, then say, the new fuel or the engine for any business. And pharma industry, although we are relatively late adapters in terms of the technology and data analytics, but we're not going to be staying away. In every format of whatever we are trying to do in terms of customer engagement, marketing, strategy, is a lot of track and trail data which is getting generated with the AI and the Gen AI capabilities which are getting increasingly active. You don't have a choice but to leverage that. So in my own judgment and limited opinion, I'm very certain, if not already started, the companies need to have a more structured function to be able to deal with these changing dynamics of our industry. But having said that, I also believe then the people who are a part of the commercial excellence function also have to reskill and retrain. They'll have to go back to the drawing board and also trying to understand what should be the team structure of such functions. In the conventional days, typically the commercial excellence function will be comprising largely either people who have had some sales experience, then coming on to be a part of the SFE function, or someone who is a part of the typical admin MIS who have a better hang of internal sales data. They become a part of this function. So either they are inside out kind of a view or a basic sales, but I don't think that's going to be enough because this function has so much more to do with technology. So you need to understand what is happening out there in the world, what kind of technology is evolving. If you don't know what is happening, how can you leverage? So when I spoke about the digital transformation lens, I should know what is the art of possible. I mean, we're talking about RPAs, we're talking about generative AI, leveraging generative AI for even data cleanup. There's so much thing. If you as the lead, if you don't know what is happening out there, you can't add value to the organization. So there's clearly a digital, techno-digital angle flavor which is coming. Second, the function also needs to have very high analytical equity. And analytical acumen not limited to only the sales operations. You need to have ability for embracing and tying the objectives of the sales operational data into the larger view strategy. And that is not easy. And that's where when you said that many of the companies people perceive commercial excellence as only a data provider. Okay, at the end of the month, you generate a lot of data, call average, it, visit frequency, miss doctors, first line manager, second line joint field work, and that's what you believe is good about it. I don't think so. I mean, that is happening because maybe the function themselves is trying to have a limited scope of view. If we start putting our neck out and understand what is a broad strategy of a division from a marketing perspective, from a HCP engagement perspective, and then be a part of their journey at the inception level, which means you have to understand what is happening out there. You may not be able to play an active role in other pillars, but in anything and everything which is happening out there, if it comes related to your function, you should be able to go all out and do that. I mean, a classical example, we spoke about multi-channel engagement and omni-channel. I mean, I can bet 80% people don't understand the difference between multi-channel and omni-channel. I mean, the discussion starts and there's a digital, and many people confuse that this could be a best, I would say, expanded role responsibility for digital marketing. Why would you digital marketing? I believe it can be a part of the integrated commercial excellence team. Because you're dealing with data, you're dealing with customer engagement data. Who better than the commercial excellence team can actually tie in the lot? And I mean, we keep on discussing one customer view, 360-degree customer view. Who should be the owner of that initiative? It's commercial excellence. So I strongly believe we as the custodian of the commercial excellence function, we also have to keep on upskilling ourselves beyond the rudimentary sales operations. You need to understand the tech, you need to understand, of course, generative AI, and you need to understand the digital marketing bit to be able to leverage and grow beyond the commercial excellence.
I think you nailed the issue because that is something even in the future, because pharma industry, if you really talk about capitalizing on the advances of AI and this, we talk about fintech, we talk about retail, all of them have been like ages ahead of us and they have been able to do it. Today we struggle even with the next 3 years forecast, 2 years forecast, why 3 years, 2 years, we can't even focus the next month, say. So that is where pharma is, and where you see a fintech person, he is able to even predict what the Sensex is going to go up and down. So a long way to go, but yes, and to be honest, pharma is the most stable industry to you. This is something where we should be able to really focus. We should be able to predict all possible prescriptive predictive analytics is possible over here. So, but I like the optimism in saying yes, commercial excellence in the next 3 years will see a complete change. And what could be a better start to the podcast and a better concluding remark for the podcast. With this optimism, I think we have a great future for commercial excellence as a team. And with likes of you, I think we would have many sons and companies which would really be making use of this as a commercial or a sustainable advantage, competitive advantage. Because finally, whoever excels will come forward. So, and one of the things, while I come to this conclusion part of it, is saying that Vivek, I've seen in this last 25 years over, while he has changed and transformed the companies, he has transformed a lot of people also, because you will see a lot of mentees of his who are all around in this industry. So thanks, Vivek, you have been able to not only transform some of the companies, but you have been able to even transform some of the people. And with those type of people coming into the forefront, I think your optimism is well said.
There's just one closing note that I would want to talk about, and I was really been thinking about it for a while, especially when we speak about the commercial excellence and what is happening in the sales function. No? So we have been hearing from the era of the sales function being physical in its nature. It was face-to-face interaction. Over the last 1 decade, we have been hearing the term phygital. No, you brought in iPads and CLM and integrated. So Rev is able to leverage a bit on that phygital. But I think in the times to come, I believe we'll have to start embracing some new term. And in my own judgment opinion, if I have to talk about it, we have to look at embracing not an agentic AI, but agentic MR. Because now when you will have to, so there is a lot of rescaling, upskilling the rep will also have to go through. So from physical to digital to an agentic MR era, is where probably we should progress, and it's a very you can expect it to happen definitely in the next 3 to 5 years.
So do you see companies that actually moving in that direction? You see that happening?
But in my version of agentic MR, the MR is a physical person.
Okay.
MR is not
So
a
you don't want to
I'm not moving. I'm not indicating a virtual MR.
right
I'm talking about our own rep.
MR. Okay.
Imagine him as an AI, but he is empowered to do multitasking. Just the way you create an agentic AI system
Right.
where independently they're able to leverage and take decisions on multiple tracks together and give an experience which is seamless to the end customer. Imagine a rep being empowered with data analytics, with digital tools, with generative AI. We're not trying to take away his credit and capability to draw business.
Hmm.
But he needs to understand these are all things which are likely to be augmented into his daily routine life to help him perform better. So for me, that agentic MR is the agentic is a system around him. MR is physical.
Wow. I think this is something which could be a sort of a purpose for the entire pharma industry. I like the concept only as an agentic MR. So great. Great, Vivek. I think this has been a fabulous discussion. I really thank you for coming over here. And I'm very sure what we started off as the objective of this call, that once we start off with the podcast and when we are coming over there, we'll get to know and widen that entire role of commercial excellence. At least we have the journey in us with it. And thanks for coming over here.
I wish you all the best. Thank you so much.